another thing from our legacy brain that ends up being very important is the idea of scarcity. And this is the idea that the less something is available, the more people want it.
I could see that hunter-gatherer thing.
Yeah, exactly. So if food is scarce, you want it more.
Right.
Water is scarce, you want it more.
Yeah.
You know, all of these things, it's a very deep impulse, which extends to Tickle Me Elmos. So when that became the hot toy...
That was nuts.
Yeah. They couldn't make enough of them, and you couldn't find them. That scarcity made people want it more, even though there were probably thousands of other toys that kids would like just as much, if not more. The scarcity itself made it desirable. And so understanding that scarcity, there's a great quote by Sinclair Lewis that says, people will buy anything that is won to a customer. And it's true. If there's not enough of it, or if you can only buy so much, then people tend to want it more. There's actually, this is another one of the concepts that's talked about in Influence by Robert Cialdini.
Definitely.
And it talked about that, limited editions and, the factory can't produce enough of them, sometimes called allocation. It makes people want things more because it's a social signal.
Right.
That's so, this is also another form of social proof, which we'll talk about later. So many people want this thing.
Right. And you are cool enough to have it.
And it must be, it must be really good if so many people want it, and so it makes you want it more. Same thing, anything that is scarce or limited in quantity, limited edition cars, or even things that some of the social signaling value of, even very expensive things, which are scarce because not many people can afford them.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that makes that scarcity or that particular object valuable or desirable, because not many people can have it. It's scarce.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And the more scarce something is, the more people tend to want it. So there's a number of things that you can potentially do with this. Number one, if you can't produce enough of something, that may not be a bad thing. Okay? So people may want it more if there aren't unlimited quantities of it.
Okay.
The other thing as well, from a sales standpoint, is scarcity is often a tool to encourage the customer to make a decision, regardless of what that decision is.
Okay.
So if people have unlimited time, if they have unlimited availability...
Oh, right. They'll never make a decision.
They'll never make a decision.
Absolutely.
So when you were selling wedding dresses...
Oh, my God.
What was the most effective way to have a woman make a decision, regardless of what the decision was?
Well, it had nothing to do with me. It had to do with the dresses had a certain amount of time that they had to be produced in. And a certain number of months before her wedding, she had to make a decision. Otherwise, there started this schedule of rush charges.
Yep.
And unless a woman, and sometimes people are used to spending money to solve problems. So sometimes even saying, if you don't make your decision by this Friday, there will be a 10% rush charge. Sometimes that didn't make a difference. But it did for most of them. At least there were fewer and fewer people who would go to the 10% and then have to pay a 20% rush charge and then have to pay a 30% rush charge. And then sometimes still somebody couldn't make a decision, but at least the number of people who would decide would get, greater. And,
it's scarcity is not always something about quantity. Sometimes it's about a deadline. It's like, you must make a decision by this, or the offer or the deal is going away.
Right.
And it's the going away part that makes people actually step up and make a decision.
Definitely. I guess I could see this in sales if you were going to say, like, for this amount of time, you can get this product for $300.
Yep.
And then if you buy it during this amount of time, or you could even say, we're selling 100 for $300, and then we're going to sell 100 for $500. I guess you could use it that way, even if you have an unlimited number. It's like the opportunity is what's scarce, maybe.
And so the thing is, if you're going to set a deadline, or if you're going to set, an artificial scarce amount, that has to be believable. Because remember, one of the key issues in sales is trust.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so if you're selling something that's unlimited and you're putting an arbitrary number to it, people tend to get ticked off a little bit about that.
Yeah, so
because
would you
there's no
do
reason
it? Would you do it just to try to sell more, or would you do it to try to have a pre-order, or why would you do that?
you would probably do...
To try to influence them to make a decision?
Yes.
Okay.
And so, but there needs to be a reason for the scarcity.
Yeah.
Okay, so, like, for example, on this course, there was a deadline for a pre-order
Oh, right.
of a certain date. And that was, partially because I didn't want the pre-order price to last forever.
Right.
But also, that was a decision point that instead of deferring the decision for forever, if you're interested in signing up for the course, you have to do it by this date to get this deal. Otherwise, the deal changes.
It was also good, so we would know about how many people we were working with.
Exactly.
Right.
And the other thing, because there's a personal component to the course, is that we can only work with so many people. And so if we got a whole lot of orders that we potentially couldn't fulfill, that was another reason for scarcity. So you always have to be, if you're injecting a scarcity element into your offer, it has to be believable. It has to be for a reason. And so, but having that element of scarcity encourages people to make a decision.
Okay.
And it also encourages people to want what you have more.
Cool.
Because it's not unlimited. That's scarcity.